And with that, Dawn, I hope that is a little bit of a stepping stone into an introduction for you. We're very grateful for another amazing volunteer who volunteers, and you'll hear, for many organizations. And that's our guest speaker, Dawn Lyons-Wood. And Dawn, I'm going to let you tell your story, please. And John, I think we'll pull up Dawn's presentation now. So Dawn, there you are.
There I am. Thank you. That was actually a great segue because my family and I were actually the recipients of some wonderful comfort shawls. So thanks to Threads of Compassion for doing that for us. If you want to start the slide presentation, I will jump right in. First of all, I just want to start by saying happy National Donate Life Month. I appreciate having this chance to celebrate something positive in these strange and scary times. With that said, I sincerely hope that you all are staying safe and healthy. This is also my first attempt at a webinar, so please bear with me. I would like to thank Cindy and the National Kidney Foundation of Wisconsin for giving me this opportunity to share our story. And thank you everyone for taking the time to listen. As mentioned, my name is Dawn Lyons-Wood, and I'm a proud wife and mother of 7 children with our blended family. I'm a customer service manager at Matera, Wisconsin, a printing company located in Beaver Dam. I'm an active member of the Beaver Dam Lions Club. I'm a cornea transporter. I'm a volunteer with the Lions Eye Bank of Wisconsin and UW Organ and Tissue Donation. And every day, I am the mother of a hero. I'm assuming that most of you are either organ recipients on the waiting list or love someone that is. And God bless you for the struggles you encountered to get to the point of needing a transplant. God bless you for feeling the gratitude I can only imagine you feel every day at your second chance of life. I cannot explain the feeling I get when standing next to or talking with a recipient. The feeling that comes to mind is overflowing proudness. I'm proud of mankind. I am proud of my fellow human beings. I am proud of my daughter for deciding to agree to such an unselfish act. I was asked to be here tonight to discuss my side of donation, not only organ and tissue donation, but cornea donation as well. And I would like to share the story that brought me and my family to where we are today. However, before I start, I would like to take a moment and tell you a little about my daughter. Emily was the complete package. She was beautiful, smart, and well-liked by all she met. She was a tri-sport athlete, captain of the girls' golf team, a member of National Honor Society, and was the homecoming queen her senior year. At the time of her accident, she was a freshman at UW La Crosse, studying chemistry and biology with dreams of becoming an optometrist. In fact, the week of her accident, she was scheduled to be inducted into the UW La Crosse Lions Club. Emily was the type of person that was a presence when she walked into a room. However, she never demanded it. It just came naturally. She had a giving heart and always thought of others first. I truly believe she was born to help mankind, and it is a complete honor to be her mother. So what happened? On February 28th of 2015, while on a weekend getaway with her boyfriend and family, my daughter Emily was involved in a single snowmobile accident, and we received the call that is every parent's worst nightmare. Our daughter was being med-flighted to Wausau with a traumatic brain injury. On March 1st, after all the proper tests were completed, we were informed that Emily did not have any brain activity, and we would not be bringing her home. Shortly after that, we were approached by the donor liaison at the hospital. As you can imagine, our heads were spinning. Organ and tissue donation wasn't anything that our family really talked about. My aunt was a double cornea recipient, so I just assumed that we would make the decision as well. Although I knew that Emily had the orange sticker on her driver's license, I was unaware that she even had the foresight to sign the donor registry online. By doing this, Emily gave us a gift. We did not have to make the decision to donate, for she made it for us. At the worst moment in our lives, we were left to fulfill her wishes. I will be forever grateful that we did not have to make that choice. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure I would be here with all of you today. I give anyone the utmost respect for having to make that decision at such an unimaginable moment. Emily had made her choice 3 years prior, and we now needed to make sure it was carried out. I will be eternally grateful that Emmy opened our eyes and let us fulfill her last wish to help others. So the donor process began, and in a little over 24 hours, Emily's final surgery was scheduled, and we were going to have to say our goodbyes. I was able to write a letter that would be copied and travel with Emily and all of her organs. The doctors would read the letter before the life-saving surgeries would be completed. With Emmy's one surgery, she was able to save the lives of 6 people, give sight to 2 people in Wisconsin, and improve the lives of over 60 people in 22 different states. They were able to divide her liver and save 2 people with her one organ. It is exactly what she would have wanted. And again, I was a proud mother. Events were quickly organized in Emmy's name to start a memorial scholarship, as well as donate back to the causes that meant so much to us. Since 2015, the Emily C. Lyons Memorial Scholarship Fund has been able to give $2,000 a year to 2 deserving seniors that display Emmy's drive and kindness. This year, we will be holding the 6th annual Emily C. Lyons Memorial Golf Outing. To date, this event has raised over $50,000 for the UW Organ and Tissue Educational Fund, the Lyons Eye Bank of Wisconsin, and Emily's Memorial Scholarship. There is a buddy bench at Emily's grade school with a plaque designated to her. It is a sign of kindness, togetherness, and acceptance for all children. UW La Crosse and Eta Sigma Gamma hold an annual glow-in-the-dark yoga event, raising awareness and funds for organ and tissue donation in Emmy's honor. The Beaver Dam High School started a yearly event named Emily's Closet. It started small, located at the high school, and has grown to a downtown storefront this year. Emily's Closet accepts donated prom dresses and formal wear and resells for lower prices. This effort allows everyone to be able to afford prom. All proceeds are given back to the Emily C. Lyons Scholarship Fund, which in return gives back to the high school. I have had the pleasure and honor of sharing Emmy's story, meeting governors, teaching future drivers, and spending time with some of the most compassionate people ever. Grief is strange. It can take you in many different directions. And every morning I have to make the conscious effort to not give in and give it my all. It did not take me long to know that I needed to try anything I could to make sense out of this. After Emmy physically left this world, I instantly knew that I needed to fulfill what she started. I needed to live every day to the fullest. I needed to be kinder, take care of my fellow human beings, be the best person I could be, and try to make a difference in this world while I am here. I became a woman on a mission. I want everyone to know that not only did Emmy give a gift to her recipients, she gave a gift to us. By being a donor, she gave me something positive to focus on instead of just my grief. Through time, I have learned that Emily left many gifts. Her organs, corneas, and tissue are only a few. Everything that she created started her ripple effect. She saved lives, she changed lives, and she changed our path, which allows us to change lives as well. Her legacy was not her organ, tissue, and cornea donation. It was her ripple effect. She has brought continuous love, support, purpose, and the most amazing people into my life. She surrounds me with a loving family, beautiful and compassionate friends, and a very supportive community. She made me live in a way I never knew existed. Time continues, and this past month has been very eye-opening to me. You see, March of this year, it has been 5 years since the accident. 5 years that we have had to live without our physical Emmy. To be honest, I have no idea how we did it. This is not anything you can prepare for, plan out in your head, or read a book on how to navigate through life. And believe me, there are a lot of books out there. I had an epiphany of some sort. We evolved. My family evolved. Our friends evolved. In fact, Emmy still evolved. I truly believe that her body left us, yet her soul is still very much here and continues to teach us. It is because of her that I am with all of you wonderful people sharing her story and raising the importance of organ and tissue donation. It is because of her that I am outside of my comfort zone more times than I care to think about, doing things that I would never have imagined I would have been doing. In fact, I don't think I really started to live until I was told my daughter wouldn't. My life is different. My family is different. We have sad moments, we have happy moments, we have grateful moments, and we have angry moments. However, through our tragedy, we have learned to live in a way we didn't know before. We appreciate more, we love more, we care more, and we see more. When I am having a moment, I like to think of Emmy's recipients, and all recipients for that matter. My daughter was involved in a fatal accident, and try as I might, I can't change that event. However, I can give thanks to her and her kind, loving heart that chooses to help others. She gave the gift of life and love to other human beings. That alone is an amazing feat. I would like to take a moment and share some statistics. Some of these facts I found extremely interesting. In 2019, nearly 40,000 transplants brought renewed life to patients and their families and communities, from nearly 11,900 deceased and nearly 7,400 living donors. Another person is added to the nation's organ transplant waiting list every 10 minutes. More than 80% of patients on the waiting list are waiting for a kidney. A single tissue donor can help more than 75 people. And more than 85,000 corneas are provided for site-restoring corneal transplants each year. And here's some information just from our state. 819 organs were transplanted just in the state of Wisconsin. 179 living kidney and liver donors. The need is great. There's still 1,837 people on the organ transplant list just in the state of Wisconsin. And one organ, tissue, and eye donor can save and heal more than 75 lives. So that is my story, and that is my passion. I appreciate you letting me share it with you and taking the time to listen. It is my hope that all of you are organ, tissue, and cornea donors. And please make sure that your family and your friends are aware of your wishes. God bless you on all of your journeys. Stay safe and stay healthy, and thank you.
Dawn, that was amazing. I want to remind people, and I should have said at the beginning, that people can use the chat function, which if you're in front of a computer like I am, is in the lower portion of the screen. And then type in your questions. And those of you that might be listening and watching on Facebook, you can also, Amanda is there and will read your questions out loud. But Tony, I did see that you were on. John, he's a green TG is what I saw. So Tony, I might pick on you for just a minute if you can unmute yourself and welcome you.
Yeah, feel free. Thanks, Cindy.
Well, Tony, can you introduce yourself and your role? Because I'm sure people might have a few questions also, but during Donate Life Month, I think it's important for us to have a person like you involved. And you've, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in your professional job to bring the gift of life to individuals in Wisconsin.
You bet. So first of all, I have a few thanks to give. First, Cindy, thanks for the opportunity. John, thank you for stealing that picture wherever you found it, because I promise that photo captures a better side of me than quarantine would right now. So thank you for that. Thanks to Dawn. Dawn, you know, I've been doing this job for a number of years now, and having an opportunity to hear such just raw, honest stories from donor families, and particularly donor parents, is such a great opportunity. I as a young parent myself, I try to learn as much as quite possible. So just hearing the way that you supported Emily, and you know, you have just risen to the occasion and taken on, as you said, a new life. It's inspiring from a donation and transplant standpoint. It's equally inspiring from a parent. So thank you for that. And certainly just a good shout out to our friends at Threads of Compassion. I know it was mentioned early on, but you know, Lynn and her group at Threads of Compassion do such a great deal to support our donor families in their time of grief, and being able to witness the impact of their shawls for our donor families is a real privilege that I have. So thank you, all of you. So as Cindy mentioned, my name is Tony Guzzardo. I am the manager for community and hospital development for Versiti Organ Donation in Milwaukee. A little bit of my background is I'm a critical care nurse by trade. Most of my work prior to working in donation and transplant was in the intensive care units, a few of which here in Milwaukee, and the emergency room as well. And I got involved in donation about 6 years ago. And if I'm being entirely honest, I had an opportunity to get off of night shift in the hospital and work for what was then the Wisconsin Donor Network. It is now Versiti Organ Donation. But little did I know that organ donation would become such an important part of my life. I personally have no connection truly to organ donation or transplant, but it becomes such a passion of mine. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, working with many of you. I noticed, I recognize a lot of names and some faces on the screen tonight. And then certainly hearing from folks like Dawn, it really instills in me a passion for the work that we do. So thank you, all of you. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I welcome any questions, but certainly, you know, Dawn is the woman of the hour right now. So I don't want to divert anything from her, but happy to help in any way I can tonight.
Tony, I want to kick it off. There are some comments, and I'm sure people might be formulating questions because many of the people are advocates for donation, not only maybe in their personal lives, but as they might interact in the community. Maybe one of the questions is the donation process still going on in these challenging times, or are there some nuances and changes as it relates to, you know, what's happening as it relates to bringing the gift of life to individuals who are waiting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'd be remiss to not talk about what, if anything, has had to change given these unprecedented circumstances. But to, you know, rest assured that donation and transplant is still happening. Just like anything, we have had to adapt very quickly on the fly. A lot of things kind of feel like a bit of a moving target right now because everything is changing with this COVID-19 pandemic, you know, day to day, minute to minute, hour to hour, and we have to evolve and adapt accordingly. But yeah, donation and transplant still happening. I think just to kind of give some insight as to what we're seeing, right? most of it is just having to adapt to changes in healthcare overall. And that is partially related to, not partially, it's mostly related to the safety of our recipients and the safety of our personnel. You're seeing a lot of transplant centers in particular right now doing really important weighing of the odds and this risk benefit analysis as it relates to the need for transplant, which we know always exists and we're committed to impacting. But certainly that is the circumstances are different now as it relates to, you know, sending people home post-operatively on immunosuppressant drugs and the risk for contracting illness that is, you know, so prevalent in our community right now. But also the risk as it could relate to physicians or nurses or coordinators who may be flying from one transplant center to another hospital to potentially recover a donor. Even the risk of bringing someone in to the hospital for a pre-transplant workup has to be strongly considered now. You know, certainly in states where we're seeing a higher number of coronavirus cases or confirmed cases, you're seeing hospitals really weigh you know, just the risk to their recipients and the importance of receiving a transplant when the time is optimal. Equally, from a donation standpoint, we're having to adapt to the multitude of changes throughout the healthcare system in the state of Wisconsin and nationwide. Many hospitals have put in necessary restrictions and changes in their own processes and procedures that we've had to adapt accordingly. But also too, you know, we have our staff. Our staff are essential to what we do. And so we're having to weigh, you know, strategic decisions, if you will, while we also maintain their health and safety accordingly. So lots of changes. It's been ever evolving. It's been a busy several weeks, if you can imagine, but 100% we're committed to doing everything we can to make sure that donation and transplant still occurs.
Tony, I'm just going to follow up. I'm sure others might have questions. And again, I just want to remind people that we have everyone muted. So you will have to use one or more fingers to type in any of your questions or comments for either Tony or Dawn. But one of the questions that comes to mind as I listen to Dawn's story and I see some of the individuals that have joined us tonight, are families allowed to be with their loved ones and to say those goodbyes given the current health environment?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer. Not because I don't have the information, but it's because it kind of hurts my soul a little bit. But what we're seeing right now is a mixed bag. You know, hospitals have had to put in very important visitor restrictions, which are hard to enforce as on a normal day. There's so much that is involved with loved ones visiting and what that does to contribute to people's coping and healing and whatnot, but certainly at end of life, which is just a very tragic time for all involved. We're seeing some hospitals allow end of life visitation. Some of that visitation may be scaled back to just, you know, one or a few members of the family or next of kin. We are seeing, unfortunately, hospitals that don't allow any visitation, which is really troubling. But I also try to consider that hospitals are trying to make their decisions with the best of intentions right now. And as I said, just unforeseen, unprecedented circumstances. But, you know, we're doing our best working within whatever processes and procedures hospitals have in place to ensure that our families, our donor families, are able to support their loved one through donation to the extent of our ability. And I think, you know, we like to think that we're able to make a pretty strong case in instances of flexing and allowing families to have those final goodbyes or those final moments. But just as this continues to evolve, we're just going to have to continue to see more and more of these circumstances unfold. But it's definitely made end of life care and those end of life visitations a lot more challenging. I
had a question, but it escaped me, Tony, when you were talking. Oh, I know. You work for an organization that actually, on the flip side, is kind of on the forefront as it relates to the current pandemic. And I don't know, while I know you don't know the intricacies of it, but Versiti really is becoming a leader, if you will, as it relates to some research, et cetera, as it relates to some of their blood and laboratory things. Is that correct?
That is, it is correct, and you're also correct in that I know very little about it. But I'm happy to speak to what I know. We're a unique organization that we're housed in a blood center, a traditional blood bank, if you will. So we enjoy the privilege of really walking alongside some of the nation and the world's leading researchers as it relates to blood and transfusion medicine. And to your point, Cindy, as it relates to the COVID pandemic, yeah, our organization, as well as several others across the nation, are really working very hard to potentially identify treatments for this illness as it relates to antibodies, which is my understanding that the potential collection of antibodies in plasma from folks who have been infected with coronavirus and have built up that immune defense, and being able to develop a treatment protocol from that. So that's the baseline limited knowledge that I know, but I have a huge appreciation for what everybody on that side of the house does, if you will. And it's, yeah, I mean, it's nice to know that we're all doing our part, kind of in our own little niche, to make sure that we have an impact on our communities and the world as this all continues.
And Tony, I see, at least on my screen, I jumped in, Amanda, probably you were going to read this, but Rachel Maskey, who is a donor sister and is an associate member of Donate Life Wisconsin also, wrote, a doctor from Children's was the first to donate plasma today at Versiti who was COVID-19. Dr. Lai from Children's. So she offered that up to all of us.
That's fantastic. I mean, such a groundbreaking initiative right there. And for you know, a children's physician, we have such a great relationship in general, but certainly from a donation and transplant standpoint with Children's Hospital of Wisconsin here in Milwaukee, that for one of their own to step up and be a part of that, it doesn't surprise me at all. They're just good people over there. So it's such an incredible feat today.
Yeah, there are some other comments, and Amanda, would you like me to read those or whatever? Joan Heimler wrote a comment to everyone, and Dawn, I think this is directed also at you, but to everyone. Her comment is, Emily's donation has truly helped you through the grief process. Thank you for sharing. But do you have anything that you'd want to add? And then from Pauline's iPhone to everyone. So hello, Pauline's iPhone. Dawn, I think this is also a compliment to you. Emmy's story is so well told by you. I learn a little bit more about her every time. Bless you, and as you always say, be kind. Dawn, any comments? There's a few others that I'd love to read to you, but any comments?
Sure, I'm actually able to read the comments.
Oh, great.
So thank you to everybody for the kind words and the support. And as I said, I think if nothing else, organ and tissue donation became so important to me because it gave me something kind of tangible to focus on. And along with that came Emmy's legacy, which I might view donation a little different than other donor families. I don't often think of Emily's heart went here, her kidneys went here. I think of them more as gifts that she gave to people. I don't think that her organs live on. I think she gave them to somebody, and it's her legacy that lives on. So that's correct. If I wouldn't have that, I don't think we would be nearly as positive and productive as we are now.
So Dawn, what would you, first of all, are you comfortable talking? Have you met some of the recipients? I assume perhaps you have from your comments. What, do you have a relationship with any, or in terms of that kind of communication? Because many times, or not many times, but some recipients just always have questions about, you know, writing that first letter or reaching out. Have you've heard from recipients, and what was that like? Or could you just describe that process from a donor family perspective? And what would you say to a recipient who maybe hasn't communicated or tried once, but now it's 5 years later?
I absolutely love the chance to talk to recipients, especially people that might be on the fence or they have survivor's guilt and think that they may bring up bad thoughts to the donor family. And I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for me that I love talking to them. I love to find out how much they appreciate their second chance. My heart aches for them for all the things that they had to do to get to the point of needing an organ. I have heard from 5 of Emily's recipients, and I have met her heart recipient. And it was maybe just about 3 months ago when I received a letter from her liver recipient, the parents. They apologized for not getting in touch sooner. They just said there was no reason, and they felt terrible about it. But everybody needs to figure out things in their own time. So 5 years, 10 years, if it's a thought in your head, I would always support anybody to write a letter. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and Tony, I might bounce it back to you. Can you talk about some of the aftercare that is people, recipients especially, might not be familiar with the support an organization like yours or the UW, although maybe you can't speak to all of the nuances of that, or the other recovery organizations. But can you talk a little bit about how Versiti supports donor families, you know, after donation a bit?
Absolutely. I would say, you know, Versiti has an aftercare program that is slated for 18 months. And the reason I say that is that there are specific times throughout that 18 months after someone's loved one has become a donor, where we have a very scheduled, very regular cadence of follow-up and resources and materials that we like to share. We involve them in some of our donor family celebrations. We involve them in the Gift of Life ceremony in Madison within that first year. And we continue to support them and follow along this journey with them to the extent that they want us to, as much as or as little as is necessary. But after 18 months, that aftercare certainly doesn't stop. We have plenty of donor families, some of which are involved in this call tonight, who have been involved with us for years and years and years, and they very much become a part of us. As I said, you know, in relation to Dawn earlier, much of what we do thrives off of how we're reminded of the impact through our donor families and our recipients. So we have a lot of good folks who continue to be involved with us through volunteering or just through other means of support. But our aftercare program in itself is an 18-month program, and then it gets just a little bit more informal after that.
So Tony, I'm noticing there's a comment from one of our guests who is a donor family member herself, and she made a comment to the group about wishing, you know, she would love to hear from some of the recipients. always a resource, no matter how, I don't want to say how far out from donation, but you talked about a year and a half, but let's say it's 3 years. And I feel as a donor family member, I might be, I haven't heard anything, but now I'd like to. Can donor families reach out, Tony? Some people might not know.
Yeah, absolutely they can. I believe it's at about the 10-month or 1 year mark throughout our aftercare program, where that's kind of a scheduled milestone, if you will. That certainly feels to us more or less the best time to introduce that option and support donor families throughout that aspect of their journey. We know that some donor families find that they're ready earlier than some others to want to write those families, and we'll certainly support them if they're at that point. Others aren't quite ready at that 10-month to 12-month mark, if at all. And we just try to meet them where they're at. But quite certainly, yeah, we have donor families reach out to us years after their loved one was a donor. I remember just recently, within the past 6 months, I believe it was last fall, we had an older woman whose son, middle-aged son, had been a donor, gosh, in the 90s, something of that, somewhere in there. And she called our office, and we, quite frankly, we had to go into the archive of all of our files and into the banker's box when we still did paper charting and things like that, and pull everything out. And we were able to help her facilitate writing a letter. She hadn't done it yet. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if she ever did hear back, but certainly we're able to support people in that. We've got really great staff that work with us. Katie, who's our aftercare coordinator, and then some of our administrative assistants who help support that program, really do a nice job. And as I said, I think all of the recovery organizations in the state and certainly nationwide have some aspect of the program. And I think we're all aligned to just do our best to support our donor families if and when they need us, and just meet them wherever they're at.
So I have to ask, Tony, how do you take care of the staff that's taking care and is with donor families? What does your organization do to keep them resilient? Because I'm in awe of how you help them meet and help to support donor families. But how do you take care of your staff?
This is something that has evolved over the past few years. And quite frankly, I think we do it better now than perhaps we did. We had to learn kind of the hard way just what it means to care for the caregivers. And many of us come into this work as caregivers ourselves prior to being in donation and transplant, either as nurses or physicians or social workers, and we have all disciplines represented. And we, similarly to our aftercare program, we built a program within our organization, and there are other OPOs and other recovery organizations throughout the nation who have similar programs, or who have reached out to us to learn kind of what we do so that they can build their own. But we just have a very ongoing structure for self-care and for resilience. We partner with a counselor who does a resiliency program that just rolls on throughout the year, where we have monthly, if not bi-weekly, sessions for our staff where she guides them through different topics, stress management, leaving work at the workplace, conflict resolution, guided meditations, yoga sessions, all kinds of stuff like that. And that happens on a very regular basis. And we do that both in small groups with certain, sectors of our staff, if you will, but then we also do those as a organization, or as an OPO and tissue bank, because we are a tissue bank also. So that's upwards of 150 people who could be involved in that. And the larger group settings, those are people sharing their stories about, if I'm on the panel today, what do I do as your peer? What do I do who is kind of standing here in the trenches with you to keep myself healthy, and to make sure that I'm as locked into our work as I can be to be effective, and make sure that we're caring for people appropriately, but also being able to go home and make sure that I'm caring for myself and my family. We do fun stuff. I mean, we have what's called a shout committee that almost on a monthly basis hosts a potluck or, you know, some sort of contest or some sort of event for the office and the staff. They host outings. We've done, you know, axe throwing. We've done those, what are those, escape rooms. We've done picnics. We've done all kinds of stuff throughout the year that we just really try to also unplug a little bit and with all due respect, gather as a group and enjoy ourselves without shop talk, without thinking about work, because this is an all-encompassing thing, and it's very easy for us to be very invested and go 24/7, 365. But sometimes we need to be able to teach each other and give each other permission to shut down a little bit and turn things off.
So I noticed in Dawn's presentation, I thought that was her jumping out of an airplane. So the next time we talk, Tony, I'm going to ask if you're going to add that to a group activity. So
I would happily add it. I don't know that I'd have very many participants, but I will add it.
I wanted to put in a plug here, and then Dawn, I have a question for you about your volunteer investment that you've made in so many organizations. But I do want to put in a plug to the point I asked Tony about, and that's kind of, I want to, those of you that are participating tonight, as well as others that we have in our database, we are offering this Thursday night a special private resiliency program with two trainers, if you will, life coaches. One of them is a two-time kidney recipient, specifically just for medical and healthcare professionals. It's a private webinar, and we just feel as the National Kidney Foundation that just as Versiti does, and you heard Tony talk, we want to fill the cups of all of our healthcare and medical professionals right now. And then similarly, to fill all of our souls, if you will be those two same presenters are designing a special session for us and caregivers, patients, etc. And that will be on April 15th. We decided on that day since nobody's going to have to be doing their taxes that day. So please consider participating in that. But Dawn, as we start to close, I'm curious about the energy that you've found, if you will, and volunteering. And for those that maybe haven't really tiptoed into volunteering for an organization, how did you make that? You know, when did you kind of start? And then what advice would you give? Because, yeah, I guess that's it. Because you give back so much to so many and so many organizations. Can you talk about how you kind of arrived at that decision to volunteer?
Certainly. Earlier, we were talking about aftercare for recipients and for donor families. And I received a call the morning that we got home from the hospital, and it was from UWOTD. And I had an amazing conversation with the social worker that was assigned to my family. And I knew right away I wanted to know the recipients, or what could I do to help everybody that had helped us. So they, to this day, they call Emily by her name. They made us feel like we were rock stars. I gave birth to a hero, and the way they treated us put me on the path to knowing that I wanted to help UWOTD. So I really didn't have a choice. It was where my heart went. It was where my family and all of my friends supported me. And I don't do it all alone. I have a very, very wonderful, that I call my tribe, that never says no to me. I throw a lot of events at them. It is continuous support from the people that love Emily and love my family that allows us to do what we do. And we don't get tired. And if somebody does get tired, we just don't allow it.
Well, I can feel that. Amanda tells me that we have a question from someone on Facebook, Dawn. So Amanda, will you unmute?
Yep, we have Felicia who has asked, can you donate during the pandemic? And then also, if we can again go over how she could write to her son's recipients.
So Tony, that sounds like it might come your way again.
Sure, happy to speak to that. So I'll answer the second question first if I can. My advice in terms of reaching out to your son's recipients would be to just contact your host OPO, whoever coordinated your son's gifts, and they'd be able to guide you through that process of writing to recipients. Some OPOs, their processes will vary, so I won't give too much nuanced information as it relates to that. Don't want to give you the wrong information, but they would have a point of contact for you there to be able to guide you through that process and give you some tips on how to do that. That would be my best advice. Second question, can you donate during the pandemic? Was that the question, Cindy?
Yes, I believe it is, and I'm not sure. I assume that relates to an individual who might, the circumstance would be I'm going to assume a donor, a potential donor.
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. As I kind of spoke to earlier, everybody's taking heightened precautions right now. We still go about our business as it relates to evaluating donors and connecting donors to recipients more or less the same way. We are testing all of our donors for COVID-19, regardless of their clinical course in the hospital. So even if someone came in, say, having suffered a heart attack without any reason to believe he or she could have had COVID-19 infection, we still test everyone for that. And ultimately, we will defer to hospital testing, however, if the hospital would have tested someone prior to our involvement. That being said, if someone were to come back positive for COVID-19 currently, they would be unable to donate. As of right now, that is the highest precautionary move that donation and transplant can make. As that evolves over time, I'm not entirely sure what that will look like, but certainly now we're testing everybody for it, and should that test result as positive, they would not be eligible for donation. But yes, as I said, donation continues as much as we can, facilitate and transplant equally, just through the lens of a lot of higher precautions right now, just because there's uncertainty surrounding COVID.
And Tony, just so I'm clear, when you talk about testing, does that also then negate any tissue or cornea donation, or is it just solid organs that would be ruled out?
Yeah, so I can't speak to cornea donation. I don't have the most accurate information in front of me right now, but I can certainly speak to tissue donation, and it would equally affect tissue donation as it would organ donation. So a positive result for COVID-19 testing would rule someone out for both organ and tissue donation. I would direct the cornea question back to the Lyons-Eye Bank if there's anybody on who could speak to that.
And then that explanation is given by to the family about that. So is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. Just as a blanket statement, we test all of our donors for many infectious diseases, and we're just adding, if you will, COVID-19 given the current situation. So our communication as it related to any concerning positive results wouldn't change, particularly as it related to something like COVID-19, where we have also a duty to protect other people who may have been exposed to the illness itself.
And Tony, I want to thank you for being with us tonight and providing. I kind of said don't do a presentation, but I said you'd be on duty for questions. So I certainly appreciate kind of timely information. And Dawn, I want to just ask, do you have any parting thoughts or comments as we kind of end this evening, I first of all want to just say you're amazing, but you know I already think that. But thank you for bringing us a special perspective to us tonight, especially during Donate Life Month. But any final words to recipients or those that are waiting, or we have some donor families joining us tonight. Anything you'd like to say?
Well, first of all, just thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share Emily's story. That's what gets me through my days. And anyone that I can talk with and help and share her legacy is so important to me. For recipients, I think they are amazing people. We often think that the donor family is the one who's suffering, and every day I pray for recipients and people on the transplant list just to get their time for a second chance. And again, during these crazy times, just be kind. It's all about taking care of each other and just being the best people that we can.
Well, Dawn, I think everyone would agree looking at the statements in the chat. John, do we have some other slides other than, oh, Tony, look, that could be you.
Dawn, if you're experienced, I'll take you up on the offer you haven't quite made yet, which is to teach me to skydive. So I'm all for it.
I don't think I will ever do that again.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everyone. John is kind of whipping through a few things, but I do want to remind you that hopefully we are going to come together from throughout the state for our capital city run and walk for organ tissue and eye donation. This is an event the National Kidney Foundation has organized and orchestrated since 2011 to bring together recipients, donor families, living donors together to mutually and collectively celebrate. The mission of our organization is to increase the availability of all organs, not just kidneys, and support and promote organ tissue and eye donation. So you'll find that we take great pride in being able to bring everyone together. And it looks like we will be able to make that happen in terms of Madison, the last weekend of July in Madison. So just kind of stay tuned, make sure we have your emails, make sure that you do follow us on Facebook. I do want to note that this year it'll be a special 10-year anniversary for the online donor registry in Wisconsin. And I think that's been an invaluable resource. I think you heard Dawn talk a little bit or hint a little bit about that. But that is the way that for those family members that really don't know perhaps what their loved one wanted, it's a way for people like Tony and members of his staff can say that, yes, indeed, this is what this person wanted. They wanted to be an organ tissue and eye donor. John is putting up a slide, and you all have to go to the optometrist. And Jill Dillon, I saw you online, so thank you for joining us. But Jill is a professional, but if Jill, I'm sure, could read this form. We do provide the National Kidney Foundation free of charge for all recipients, medical identification jewelry for those who have chronic conditions, as well as living donors. So I'll just put in a plug there. And John, I don't know, yes, obviously people can always get social with us. And I do want to put in a plug also and a reminder. Oh, you can't read that, Jill? That's amazing. She wrote a little note to all of us. I do want to put in a plug to visit our Amazon Smile page, and that's where we do have, you can find our wish list, because I want to be able to very soon take a big box and many boxes of yarn. I want to deliver those to Versiti, so our Threads of Compassion volunteers can continue and gather again together and continue their work to make those shawls, those comfort shawls. So again, we have the specific yarn that the Threads of Compassion group has listed. And as you know, and many of us are discovering, if you go to smile.amazon.com, you'll find how you can have the yarn shipped directly to our office. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I want you to look for the emails in terms of our resilience webinar that will be available. I want to thank again our partners at the American Liver Foundation who have helped us plan these events. And I want to wish you all to be well and be safe. And I think, as Dawn aptly put it, be kind to each other. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Good night.